Begin today looking at Parshat Ki Tetzah, halfway, not technically halfway, but in the midst of the book of Dvarim, the book of Deuteronomy. And Parshat Ki Tetzah starts out with one of the more challenging laws of the Torah. We are within the book of Dvarim now, a few different laws related to um, different war. We talked about on Friday about the Kohen Mashuach Milchama, the Kohen who comes out and gives exemptions to certain people who don't want to join the army, and talked about how when you go to a war, you first have to offer a peace. And Parsha Ki Tetzah also begins Ki Tetzah la milchama Elohevecha, when you go out to wage war against your captive, against an enemy. And then comes one of really the most morally challenging laws in the Torah. If you go to war and um, you take captive, then you see amongst the captives a beautiful woman, and you want to sleep with her. And what does it say? You bring her into your house. She trims her hair. She pares her nails. You take off her captive's garb. She spends a month of time in your house. And after that, you may come to her and be her husband. And there is debate amongst the commentators whether you sleep with her at first and this is afterwards, or you have to wait the month and sleep with her at first. But this is not presumably two willing parties, right? This is not a question. Question. This doesn't seem to be a place where a woman is offering. The woman in here is offering consent. Let's put it that way. And it's a very, very troubling. It's a very troubling law. It's basically allowing, one could say, some form of um, of rape. And the rabbis understand that this is, they say, it's Dibra Torah Keneged Yetzer Hara. Rashi cites that this is the Torah speaking. It's a concession to man's evil inclination. Man on the battlefield with all the war and all the virility and all this stuff that's going on, and Torah is allowing this sort of sanctioned rape, if I could say it as such. It's a very, very difficult law, and the rabbis understand that. And the rabbis say that this was one of these places and one of these cases where the Torah is allowing something, and it's a mitzvah that's not something that you should do. It's something that the Torah is allowing under certain circumstances. And the brilliant way in which the rabbis look at this, and is if you look at the stories early on in the book of in Parshat Ki Tetzah, we have this, right, the man sleeping with this woman in the battlefield and then having to marry her, or then um, release her outright if he does not want to stay with her. And that's followed by then two stories afterwards. Story number two is a situation if a man has two wives, one that he loves and one that he hates, and they each have children, both the wife that he loves and the wife that we'll say dislikes. When he is ready to give the inheritance, he has to follow the laws of inheritance and give the double portion, as was the custom at the time of the Torah, to the oldest son, irrespective if that was from the beloved wife or the wife that he did not love as much. And it's followed by a third story here in the first Aliyah. If a man has a ben sorer umoreh, a wayward and defiant son, one who does not listen to his mother and father and does not obey him, and his mother and father bring him to the public square, to the elders of the town, and say, our son is disloyal and defiant, and he's a glutton and a drunkard, and he actually gets the death penalty. It's very difficult stories. And what the rabbis, when they look at this, again, coming back to this idea that the sanctioned rape, the concession to man's baser side, the Dibra Torah Keneged Yetzer Hara, man is speaking, God is speaking to the evil inclination in allowing a person to sleep with a captive that he finds on the battlefield, the rabbis point out the sequence here. And they say if you look at this sequence, is also demonstrating how this is far from the ideal type of relationship. If a man does this, if he goes and he sleeps with a woman that he finds on the battlefield, he'll presumably have two wives. Maybe he had one at home already, or he will have one when he comes home. And one of those wives he will love, and one of those wives he will hate, because this woman who he sleeps with, who was a captive on the battlefield, is not somebody he loves. It's somebody that he lusted for a moment, for a day, for a week, for a month, for a year, for who knows how long, until his lust has run out, and now he's responsible, as it were, to take care of her in the ancient world. And now he hates her. And then all of a sudden he's going to have two kids. He's going to have two wives, the wife that he loves and the wife that he doesn't love. And what's going to come out of a result of that is it's going to be a house of all sorts of problems. And he's going to have children who are problematic. He's going to have, I don't know, child or children, it might only be child, a ben soreru moreh, a child who refuses to listen. And the rabbis see this as very much sequential. If you do the first thing, even though we're allowing it, it's not the right thing to do. It's a terrible thing to do. And but it can cause the second thing, and it can cause the third thing. And the rabbis understand this in a person in the Tanakh. We don't see this necessarily directly in the Tanakh, but David has numerous children. Among his children is Avshalom, Absalom. And Avshalom is born of a foreign wife of David. It doesn't say that she was a captive on the battlefield, but the rabbis understand it that way, that that's who Avshalom's mother was. And it creates a sense of tension in the household. And ultimately, what does Avshalom do? Does um, Avshalom rebels against his father eventually. Now, it's more complex. It's because his full-fledged sister Tamar was raped by their half brother Amnon, and he's disgusting to her and her father, and their father, David Elimelech, King David, doesn't do anything about it. But the rabbis see the Avshalom arc and story as related to what happens at the beginning of this parsha, the allowance, the concession that the Torah is, the concession that the Torah is doing here. And so it's a very challenging idea morally, but part of what we have to understand in Jewish life is that Judaism is not just defined by the technical words of the Torah, but we have a Torah shebichtav and a Torah sheba'al peh. We have a written Torah, and we have an oral Torah that allows for analysis and at times transformation over time, because the world changes, and what might have been thought of as being morally correct at one time, over time we end up seeing that it's not necessarily the morally correct and the right thing to do. And so Parshat Ki Tetzah really demonstrates this aspect to us, this questionable thing that the Torah allows, but is not something certainly that would be in the Geneva Convention. And the rabbis intuit this, they understand this, they look at the sequence in the Torah to tell us that this is something the Torah allows. It's not something the Torah um, advises. It's not something the Torah demands. It's something that is a concession. You could look at the end of the parsha in a similar way. The last mitzvah in the parsha is also a very complex mitzvah morally, which is the mitzvah to remember Amalek, to remember that Amalek attacked Bnei Israel, and the command of some form of genocide against Amalek, against this nation who are seen as evil. And you know, there are a lot of complexities. We as Jews have a very difficult history, and you know, we're not that far away, of course, from the Shoah, from the Holocaust, and we understand as to why a Jew would look at a Nazi and say, we have a command to kill this person. This is a person who is innately evil. This is a person who is trying to kill us. Amalek attacked Bnei Israel for no reason whatsoever. After the splitting of the Red Sea, Jewish people didn't invade their lands. Jewish people weren't looking to invade their lands. And they just seem to want to kill Bnei Israel, to destroy Bnei Israel, and so there is this command to get rid of that sense of evil. But a command of genocide is an extraordinarily difficult and moral um, mitzvah commandment, and so I think, sort of the intriguing thing here and the important thing here in Jewish life is really when we look at stories like this and we try to understand our religion, that's the idea of the Torah Shebichtav and the Torah Shebal Peh. The idea that there is a written Torah, but God gave Moshe some form of an oral Torah to allow for latitude, flexibility, and change. If Judaism didn't change over the course of the last 3,000 years, then there would be no more. I mean, there might be some crazy lunatics, but there would be no more observant Jews, because it would be something that's so ancient and um, so completely different than the way we live our lives today, that it would not be a living religion anymore. It would be an ancient relic. And so when we see sort of some of the more challenging moral mitzvot that we have in our parsha, the beginning of the parsha, the end of the parsha, the only way to really understand them is through the lens, and the rabbis start to give that lens with the comment Rashi makes here. Like we said, Dibra Torah Keneged Yetzer Hara. This is not something that God desires or wants. It was a concession at the time, and we hope that over time the arc of justice will bend in the right direction, and it's not the type of thing that people will continue to do.